So I went on to see the Barbie movie with my girlfriend, and I surprisingly really enjoyed the movie. I think the movie is visually spectacular. A lot of the jokes, in my opinion, land and they make me laugh. Margot Robbie is amazing as Barbie. Ryan Gosling as Ken is so good in this movie. So on face value and overall, I have a good time. My girlfriend has a good time, and I'm sure a lot of people will do too. But what I find interesting about this movie is that on the surface level, it is an absolutely and unapologetically a feminist movie. It's trying to smash the patriarchy, mock capitalism, basically anything that the typical feminists online do, this movie does it. But what the movie doesn't realize is that by doing all of that, the movie also highlights a staggering amount of cognitive dissonance, existential crisis within itself, messages that just conflict with each other, to the point where the movie even tackles that very topic. No, really, it's a literal plot point in the movie, Barbie's cognitive dissonance and existential crisis. And boy, I was incredibly fascinated by it. I genuinely am. I am fascinated by this movie. This movie says that it's feminist, but deep down, they are actually not feminist, and it doesn't realize that it is, which is why it is so funny. It is so hilarious. It is so entertaining to just dissect every little bits and pieces of it. It is so much fun to just figure out what the hell is wrong with this movie, and I cannot wait to tell you guys all about it. So let's start with a little context. What's the plot of the movie? The plot of the movie involves the titular character Barbie. Margot Robbie plays the stereotypical Barbie, the default preset template Barbie, basically. She is the person that you think of when you mention the word Barbie. She starts off her day pretty nicely and things go really well. But things went horribly wrong when she has sudden thoughts of death. She goes out into the real world to figure out what the hell is wrong with her, and alongside her, there's Ken, the stereotypical Ken, the default preset template Ken. Together, they're gonna find out what's wrong with Barbie and try to restore Barbie Land back to normal. So that's a normal and typical plot that you already see from the trailers. But from this point on, I will provide some additional context to my points, and in order to do that, I'm gonna spoil things. So if you want to see the movie, then you might as well skip this video in its entirety, though in terms of plot, you're really not missing much at all. And if you don't care, let's get into the movie. So Barbie presents itself as a feminist movie that is supposed to be empowering to all women around the world. Barbie shows that women can be anyone that they like. Women can be doctors, nurses, astronauts, president, lawyer, and most importantly, depressed beyond freaking belief. No, I'm not kidding. The movie actually advertises sad and depressed Barbie. And yes, the movie heavily bashes patriarchy in a way that typical online feminists would bash patriarchy. But underneath all of this patriarchy bashing and pro-feminism movement, there's a really weird underlying sense of compliance towards the system. Despite the movie bashing the living crap out of the patriarchy, I'd argue that the movie actually really likes the patriarchy deep down and also hates the feminist ideology that they were adopting and propagating. For example, there's a kid character in the movie that is supposed to be a feminist. This kid over here. She hasn't played with Barbie since she was 5, and at one point, she just bashes Barbie for moving the women's rights movements backwards and a product of rampant capitalism or something along those lines. Basically, a typical feminist rant towards Barbie as a representation of women and a consumer-driven product, and it is as cringy as it sounds. But you know what I find very interesting about the rant? The movie depicts the girl character as this hateful, loathsome, absolutely miserable and vindictive individual to the point where Barbie at one point had to be warned by another kid, hey, she's gonna crush you emotionally. And she did crush Barbie emotionally. But Barbie didn't listen. The supposedly feminist character girl of the movie ranting about Barbie and how she reversed the progress of women's rights for decades, yeah, she's a miserable and hateful individual that no one in their right mind should interact with, to the point where somebody had to warn you to not interact with her. So why did I point that out? Well, you know how propagandists try to depict things that they are propagating to be a good thing? It's all sunshine and rainbows and rosy and epic and cool if you join this absolutely horrific ideology that we are propagating. This is a feminist movie where the person who propagates the feminism is a miserable and loathsome individual. So the movie is implying that being a feminist will make you absolutely miserable. Thank you, movie. I'm glad you agree. Here's one interesting plot point. Once Ken learns about the patriarchy in the real world and how men are absolutely amazing and all that, he goes back to Barbie Land to adopt all of the things that he learned to all the Kens of Barbie Land, turning Barbie Land into a Kendom, where Kens rule Barbie and the Barbie just become the servants of Ken. The movie points out how it's basically the same as the real world, where patriarchy reigns supreme, or at least the real world being depicted in this movie, and the polar opposite of Barbie Land. The movie depicts this change of dynamic as an incredibly awful thing, where Barbie is shocked that the Barbies of the world are being controlled by the Kens. But here's the thing, the other Barbies are very happy with the change. Some of them even said that they don't know why they become independent and have their own job when serving men makes them actually feel really good. That includes the Barbie Land's freaking president. Yes, even the president wants to serve those evil men. Now, I get that they are supposed to be brainwashed by the patriarchy, but that would also add another implication to the mix, which is that women who like to do things for their men or are comfortable doing things for their men are brainwashed by the patriarchy. I mean, I don't know about you, but in the real world, there are loads of women that are perfectly happy with serving their men and they are not brainwashed by the patriarchy. They just like serving their loved ones. It especially helps when the men that they serve are, really hot, which a lot of the Kens are. And it also especially helps when the actresses that play other Barbies are really enjoying their time serving the Kens. I mean, genuinely enjoying. The movie presents the patriarchy as this system that oppresses women, but the movie also presents the women enjoying themselves being oppressed. Yes, it's the brainwashing that caused it, but the implication of that when being applied to the real world and the implication of that brainwashing process to the Barbies are very revealing and not very feminist. So is it really the patriarchy that causes all of these women to suddenly love these men, or something else? Speaking of brainwashing, all of these Barbies that got all these positions of power like lawmakers and president and astronauts and pilots and all of that, a couple of touches from the patriarchy and boom, they all submitted to the whims of those evil Kens. But you know what is also very interesting? The opposite process is also true. So the Barbie got red-pilled very quickly, just as the same as they got blue-pilled very quickly. One plot point in the movie involves America Ferrera's character just ranting about the struggles of women and bringing light towards society's hypocrisy towards women in general. Doing so causes one of the red-pilled Barbie to be instantly blue-pilled. Apparently, all it needs for them to get blue-pilled is some feminist rant, and they all just submit themselves into the blue-pill, feminist, strong, independent women ideology thanks to the ramblings and grievances of a woman from the real world. Yes, I'm aware that in order for the plot to move forward, the Barbies have to be reprogrammed from their red pilling process. Yes, I'm aware that this scene is done for comedic purposes and that you shouldn't take it too seriously, but that's the thing about this movie. If I take it too seriously, it's even funnier. If the Barbies are supposed to represent women around the world, then the movie implies that women around the world are easily brainwashed from one ideology into the next, even if those ideologies are the absolute opposite extremes of each other. I'm not the one saying that, that's what the movie was implying, and it's not very feminist to imply such a thing. But that just reinforces one of the critiques of Barbie, in that Barbie is nothing but a corporate tool. Barbie herself is not really an actual astronaut or president or judge or lawmaker. Barbie is simply a blank-faced template actress that could just be anybody and be replaced with anything as the corporate wants her to be. Barbie can dress like someone in a position of high power, but she's really not. She's just a doll that you can dress as anyone you like, and beneath all of her dress is a hollow and easily impressionable individual. The fact that they got brainwashed by the patriarchy so easily and then got brainwashed by feminism so easily means that these Barbies are just as much of a blank-faced corporate template as the Barbies of the real world. And you know what's funny? The movie trailer also advertises that if you hate Barbie, this movie is for you. Well, I neither love nor hate Barbie. I see her place in the pop culture landscape, but it does make me think that this movie is aware that it is a satire. Except, I'm not sure if the movie is aware that they're also satirizing feminism. So what this movie is saying to all of you women around the world is that you are easily impressionable, and that corporations are able to manipulate you so that you like their product and make sure that your identity is centered on that product. It is absolutely nuts how this movie has internalized misogyny. This movie is a feminist movie the same way Clayton Bigsby is a KKK member. That is why I find this movie utterly fascinating. All of these ideas being propagated to the world at large, but internally there's so much conflict with each other that it creates this train wreck of a harmony that I have not seen in any movie. There are movies that blatantly try to be feminist for the sake of feminism, like that all-female Ghostbusters movie that was riddled with controversy that I talked about, but the movie only ends up being a mediocre and boring movie that serves no purpose. This movie is not like that. This movie is not boring. It's exciting, it's colorful, it's upbeat, it's funny, it's hilarious, it's very entertaining to me. For all the wrong reasons. I have way too much fun just dissecting this movie. Oh, sorry, I'm not at the conclusion yet. It gets worse. Don't worry. So after the Barbies got blue-pilled from those evil Kens, the Barbies plan to retaliate and take down the Kens. What they do is to pretend to serve the Kens and at a specific time play with the hearts of the Ken and manipulate them all into thinking that the Barbies are going after other Kens. Basically, the Barbies conspire with each other to have all the Kens fight each other. And because the Kens are so busy fighting each other over their Barbies, the Barbies end up retaking over Barbie Land. Oh man, where do I begin with this? This movie established a couple of things that I find very fascinating. The movie established that women actually do have power over men and that they are capable of making this devious conspiracy that can take over the world. And what is this devious conspiracy to beat the patriarchy? Pretend to submit to the patriarchy. Well, if you can't beat them, join them. Or at least pretend to join them. It's very funny to me that the movie's way of taking down the patriarchy is not by directly fighting the patriarchy, but befriending the patriarchy, gaining their trust, and stab them when the time is right. And in order for women to befriend the patriarchy, these women should also submit into what the patriarchy demands of women. So if the patriarchy thinks that women are all submissive and impressionable or can be molded to whatever the man wants and are there just for eye candy, then women have to do that or pretend to do that just to beat the patriarchy. It's genuinely insane what this movie is implying. What this movie implies is that the actual strong, independent women, the women that have real, tangible powers in the society, are those that have successfully manipulated men into doing all of their biddings. And according to this movie, they manipulate all the men by submitting into what the patriarchy demands of women, like how submissive they are, or how they are mere objects for men to ogle at. So the strong, independent women, by this movie's insane implications, are not those activists demanding equal rights to everyone. No, those are whiners. It's the e-girls that have loads of sims and manipulate them to do their bidding. Those are the real powerful women in this society. Those are the ones that successfully manipulated all the Kens in the world by submitting them into patriarchal demands of women and then stab them in the back for it. And just to be clear, that's not me saying that. That's what the movie is trying to imply. If you want to beat patriarchy, you have to submit to the patriarchy. You have to conform to the demands of men. You have to do their bidding so that they end up relying on you. Whether you agree on that notion or not is up to you. And that's not my point. What I'm saying is, do you see why this movie is not as feminist as it claims to be? The movie shows that this tactic of manipulating men and pretending to submit to the patriarchal demands actually works if the women are actually committed to the cause, that is. If you do this tactic in the real world, there's a good chance that the people who fake them will eventually make them. There's a good chance that defeating men by pretending to love them will end up with you actually loving them for real. It reminds me of what happened in Pagan Min from Far Cry 4. There's a good chance that you might actually enjoy being part of the patriarchy, just like those Barbies that got brainwashed to liking the patriarchy. The movie shows that the plan works and that all the Barbies are committed to the cause of taking down the Kens. But that's only because of screen time. There's a good chance that some of those Barbies are still loyal to their Kens. And even if there aren't, here's another problem. The Barbies don't actually destroy all the Kens. They actually make peace with the Kens. They actually recognize that the Kens have their needs and flaws and that they don't want to be ignored all the time. So the eventual result of this blue pilling and manipulation and reclaiming women's power is not the radical idea of the destruction of all men, but rather the ability to make peace with those men and be able to find a compromise that can truly benefit both genders. In other words, a true equality, something that actual feminists should be striving for. And yet here they are, striving to crush all those evil men and the patriarchy. I just find it ironic how the movie's proposal of destroying the patriarchy is to work with the patriarchy for the women's benefits. That just basically confirms that the patriarchy is way too strong for women to be able to do anything about it. So instead of trying to dismantle the system as a whole, the movie says that we should just try to work with the system so that we can fix the system from within and make peace with the people running the system. And boy, if that's what the movie proposes, I have some bad news for you, movie. Feminists that are incredibly hostile and not conforming to the demands of men, patriarchy, and most importantly, the male gaze, are very, very common. So this whole thing of pretending to like men and then eventually working with them to fix the system from within, yeah, that would require those feminists to pretend to like men and do things that men want. That's gonna be a bit of a problem. In conclusion, Barbie is a genuinely amazing movie if you actually take some time to think about a lot of its implications and underlying messages. Beneath all of the feminist meandering and patriarchy bashing, there is an absolutely fascinating, deep-rooted anti-feminist and misogynistic ideals that I don't think the movie realizes that it's saying the quiet parts out loud. Like I said, this movie is a feminist movie the same way Clayton Bigsby is a KKK member. And it is, in my opinion, just as fascinating, especially how the movie feels like it was very oblivious to that fact, or you can even say blind to that fact. This movie somehow manages to represent the surface level ideas of feminism, while at the same time also presenting the rampant flaws of modern feminism and the hypocrisies of modern feminists that make the movement and the people that participate in them to not be taken seriously in the real world, all in this neat little package being manufactured by a big corporation in order to sell more toys for our evil capitalistic world, just to hammer the point of how incredibly vacuous this message really is. The best way to absolutely end this roller coaster of cognitive dissonance and conflicting ideas is with a freaking genital joke. In the very last moment of the movie, Barbie visits a gynecologist. I wish I was freaking kidding. Get it? If you open up Barbie, you won't see her genitals. That's why she has to go to a gynecologist. That's how the movie actually ended. What an absolutely feminist ending for a movie to end with a joke about women's private parts. But hey, let's not objectify women and treat them as sex objects, guys. And that's all for this incredibly fun video to make. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more. And as always, huge thanks to all of these wonderful people. You guys are fantastic. If you want to see your names among these awesome people, then check out the links down below. Just $1 and you have contributed so greatly into this channel. Seriously, thank you so much. And I'll see you all next time.